Marie has lived in the United States for almost 15 years. She came from Haiti after the earthquake, built a life here, raised her children here, paid taxes, and never missed a check-in. Now her TPS is ending. The Trump administration is moving forward with TPS termination for Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, Nepal, and more countries, and hundreds of thousands of TPS holders across multiple countries are facing the same threat. If your TPS is ending, you are not out of options. I'm Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, an Austin immigration attorney who has represented over 10,000 immigrant families. This video walks you through what TPS is, what is happening right now, and every option you have before the deadline hits. What is TPS? Temporary protected status is a form of humanitarian protection that the federal government can grant to foreign nationals from countries experiencing ongoing armed conflict, environmental disasters, or other extraordinary conditions. When you hold TPS, you have the legal right to live and work in the United States. You are protected from deportation. In most states, you can get a driver's license. Your presence here is not invisible. It is legally recognized. But here's what TPS is not. It's not a green card. It's not a path to permanent residence on its own. The designation must be renewed by the government, and any administration can choose to let it expire or terminate it outright. Marie understood that risk when she applied. She came from Haiti after the earthquake when her country was in ruins and the infrastructure to support millions of returnees simply did not exist. She rebuilt her life here. She kept her work authorization current, renewed her TPS on time, followed every rule. She believed that the system would keep working because it always had. Now she's facing termination and she's not alone. Which countries are losing TPS right now? TPS terminations are moving forward from multiple countries. Honduras and Nicaragua are among the nations where long-standing designations are being wound down. Nepal is facing termination. El Salvador is legal limbo. And Haiti, home to one of the largest TPS populations in the country, is at the center of a legal fight that has now reached the United States Supreme Court. The Trump administration's position is that conditions in these countries no longer meet the threshold required for TPS designation. Immigration advocates and attorneys strongly disagree, pointing to ongoing gang violence, political instability, severe lack of basic infrastructure, and the very real danger that hundreds of thousands of deportees would face if returned all at once to countries that cannot absorb them. This is not a technical policy debate. This is a question of whether hundreds of thousands of people who built their lives here over the last decade or two get to stay or get forced out. The Haiti Supreme Court timeline. For Haitian TPS holders specifically, this moment is urgent. Federal courts had previously blocked termination, with one appeals court ruling that the administration's decision was unlawful. But the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. The Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments with a decision expected by summer. That leaves a narrow window. If the Supreme Court rules in the administration's favor, termination could move very quickly. If you are a Haitian TPS holder waiting on that ruling, doing nothing right now is the worst possible strategy. The outcome is uncertain. Your preparation does not have to be. What happens when TPS ends? When your TPS expires and there's no other status to replace it, you lose your legal authorization to be in the United States. Your work permit becomes invalid. Your protection from deportation disappears. Depending on your history, you could be placed in removal proceedings. If you've ever been in immigration court before, or if there's a prior order of removal anywhere in your file, the stakes escalate significantly. Bars to reentry can last years or in some situations much longer. For Marie, who has been here 15 years, whose children are born here and are American citizens, and who has built a real life in this community, losing TPS is not a bureaucratic inconvenience. It is a threat to everything she has built. And the path forward requires action, not waiting. Option 1, asylum. Let's walk through every alternative pathway available when TPS ends, because there are more than people realize. Asylum is available to people who have suffered persecution or have a well-founded fear of persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. If your country of origin is dangerous for you personally, not just generally unstable, you may have a valid claim. The critical complication is the 1-year filing deadline. In most cases, you must apply for asylum within 1 year of your last entry to the United States. For long-term TPS holders who arrived years ago, that clock may have already run, but the law includes exceptions, and one of the most important is changed circumstances. The termination of your TPS is a changed circumstance. That exception is not automatic, but it is a real argument, and an immigration attorney can help you evaluate whether it applies to your situation right now before the window closes entirely. Option 2, cancellation of removal. If you have been continuously present in the United States for at least 10 years, have maintained good moral character during that time, and have a qualifying family member who would suffer exceptional and extremely unusual hardship if you were removed, you may be eligible for cancellation of removal. This is a defense raised in immigration court. It requires demonstrating deep ties to the United States and serious hardship to a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, spouse, parent, or child. It is not guaranteed, but for long-term TPS holders with American-born children or close family members who depend on them, it is a genuinely viable option. Marie, with 15 years of documented presence and U.S. citizen children, may have exactly the kind of case that supports this pathway. Option 3. Family-based petitions. Do you have a spouse, parent, or adult child who is a U.S. citizen? A sibling who is a U.S. citizen? Family-based options are one of the most reliable pathways in immigration law, and they are available regardless of your current TPS situation. U.S. citizens can petition for spouses, parents, children, and siblings. Lawful permanent residents can petition for their spouse and unmarried children, but cannot petition for siblings. A U.S. citizen spouse can file a petition for their foreign-born partner. A U.S. citizen child who is at least 21 years old can petition for a parent. If you enter the country lawfully, you may be able to adjust your status here without leaving. If your case needs to be processed through a consulate, that takes longer, but it's a real path forward. The key point is that family petitions take time. Processing times, priority dates, and interview scheduling all add up. Starting now before your status expires keeps more options open. Option 4, U and T visa. The U visa is available to victims of serious crimes who suffered physical or mental abuse and who cooperated with law enforcement in any way, even just by reporting the crime or being interviewed by a detective. Qualifying crimes include assault, domestic violence, robbery, sexual assault, trafficking, and many others. There is a significant backlog for U visas, but filing a petition preserves your place in line and can provide meaningful protection in the meantime. The T visa is for survivors of human trafficking. If you were trafficked into the United States or exploited after arrival, this may be the right pathway for you. Option 5, other pathways. Every case is different. Depending on your full history, there may be other avenues worth exploring. Special immigrant juvenile status exists for younger individuals who are abused, neglected, or abandoned by a parent. Employment-based options may exist if you have a job offer and a willing employer sponsor. A qualified immigration attorney looks at the full picture of your life, not just your TPS history, to identify every possible path. What to do right now? Here's what Maria is doing and what you should do immediately. First, gather your documents, tax returns, pay stubs, school records for your children, leases, utility bills, bank statements, anything that establishes how long you've been in the United States and shows your ties to the community. These documents are the foundation of almost every immigration case. Second, inventory your family. List every family member in the United States, their immigration status, whether they are citizens, their ages. This directly determines which pathways are available to you. Third, be honest about your history. Have you ever been arrested, even for something minor? Have you ever been in immigration court? Have you ever received a removal order or signed a voluntary departure agreement? Your attorney needs this information to advise you accurately, and it is far better to disclose it up front than to have it surface later. Fourth, act now, not when your TPS expires. Every pathway I just described takes time to build and file. Asylum applications, family petitions, cancellation of removal cases, none of these happen overnight. The earlier you start, the more options remain open for you. Waiting until your status runs out is the worst thing you can do. Fifth, find an immigration attorney who handles TPS cases specifically, not a general practice attorney who touches immigration occasionally. Someone whose practice is built around these cases and knows the current state of the law because it is changing fast. Marie does not know how the Supreme Court will rule on Haiti. Nobody does, but she's not sitting and waiting to find out. She's gathering her documents, meeting with an attorney, and building her case for every pathway available to her right now. That is the only smart move when the stakes are this high. The administration may be trying to end your status. They cannot end your options, but only if you act now. If you want to understand the asylum process more deeply, we have a full video on exactly that, and I'll link it right here. I'm Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, and at Lincoln-Goldfinch Law, we represent immigrants across the country who are fighting to stay. If this situation applies to you, please talk to an immigration attorney as soon as possible. Subscribe so you never miss what we cover next.